In Amsterdam Thursday night, football hooliganism and politics resulted in a toxic mess that included attacks on Israelis in the streets. With Israeli fans from the Tel Aviv Maccabi soccer club in for a match against a local Dutch team, tensions were running high long before kickoff. This video shows Israeli fans gathering and lighting flares. Police say Maccabi fans ripped down a Palestinian flag. But it was after the match that the violence got out of hand. Israeli fans chanted anti-Arab slogans. Ole, 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 let the IDF win, we will F the Arabs. But then attackers, and it's not clear precisely who, chased Israeli fans through the city streets as more than 800 Dutch police tried and failed to keep the two groups apart.
One of my son's friends just screamed, "Free Palestine," otherwise they wouldn't let him go. It was a nightmare and it was very well planned.
Police made more than 60 arrests. While the provocations came from both sides, the city's mayor joined a crescendo of voices saying Israeli fans were victimized for being Jewish. Hateful anti-Semitic rioters and criminals attacked and beat up Jewish Israeli visitors to our city last night, said Femke Halsema. Israeli fans returned home Friday, along with the CEO of the Tel Aviv team.
For them to be running into rivers, to be kicked while defenseless on the floor, to be trying to suggest and beg people to believe that they're not Jewish, that's very, very sad times.
The Dutch king said the country failed the Jewish community during the Second World War and has now failed again. Just how much of the violence was driven by anti-Semitism is difficult to untangle, says this expert on football violence.
Every season we will see instances where visiting supporters are injured and hospitalised. It's not something we've particularly seen regularly with supporters of Israeli club sides.
Dutch authorities have banned demonstrations for the next 3 days, and police have been given stop and search powers as part of additional security measures.
And Chris, what more do we know about the police investigation?
Well, we know that investigators are poring over camera images and video. The Dutch PM has reportedly told Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu that the perpetrators, who Dutch police still have not said much about, will be prosecuted. And as for the injured, there were 5 people treated in hospital, all of whom have now been released.
Chris Brown in London. Canada's Prime Minister is among many world leaders condemning the violence in Amsterdam, but some here say words are not enough. Jamie Strachan now on why concern is growing within Canada's Jewish community.
It's just absolutely heart-wrenching.
At a small synagogue tucked away in downtown Toronto, Rabbi Ed Elkins scrolls through the videos of Jews being chased through the streets of Amsterdam.
This level of violence happening in a European capital, a Western city that we think of as being a place of diversity and tolerance, we can't exclude that it could happen here.
Since the October 7th attacks, Jews in Canada have dealt with a spike in anti-Semitism and violence. In Toronto, they make up a small percentage of the population, but police say they are the victims in nearly half of reported hate crimes. In Montreal, a Jewish community center was targeted with a Molotov cocktail, and Jewish schools in Quebec and Ontario have been sprayed with gunfire.
What you saw last night was simply the manifestation of what the signs on the streets have been calling for here in Canada for over a year now.
The Prime Minister called the violence in Amsterdam horrifying. My heart goes out to the victims and the entire Jewish community today. Canada condemns this disgusting anti-Semitism. But many in the Jewish community say here in Canada there needs to be a stronger political and police response.
There was a misreading of this whole situation in the early going, thinking it's temporary and it will blow over. But a year later, it continues.
Elkins says he always encourages his congregants to wear their Jewish identity proudly.
I still have the mezuzah on my doorframe, which identifies my house for anyone who's looking as being a Jewish home. Those things I haven't changed. Am I, delusional? I sometimes ask myself that. Am I putting myself or others at risk.
Something Elkin and so many Jewish Canadians feel they must now contemplate. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.